Hello and welcome, esteemed professors, scholars, and academia. It's a matter of immense joy and of great privilege for me to welcome all of you to the 17th session of the National Webinar on Multidisciplinary Approaches to Folk Life, Challenges and Perspectives, organized by the Department of Modern Indian Languages and Literary Studies, University of Delhi. My name is D. A. Esther. I'm a research fellow working under the supervision of Professor P.C. Patnaik at Delhi University. This morning, I have the privilege of moderating this session. The ongoing webinar series, as we know, has been quite an itinerary for us. Getting to listen to expertise knowledge from experts and scholars and researchers, exchanging perspectives and thoughts over this platform. This has been quite an enriching experience with a lot of learning. And an academic discussion and engagement like this is extremely important, not just for intellectual and knowledge sake, but especially in grim and aloof times like we have at the moment. I think this is one way of connecting people and celebrating life, celebrating humanity. And the very fact that we have formed a virtual community of scholars, learners across the country, I think this itself is a very rewarding, a very fulfilling experience. So today we have come to the final day of our webinar series, now being the second last session. So in this session, we have four speakers who will be making the presentations. And so I look forward to having a very productive time with you all once again, getting maximum benefits out of their assiduous works.
And mini interruption. Dear Esther also teaches English in Kalindi College. That
Right.
she did not mention that.
Right, sir. Thank you. Right. So just before I give the time to the presenters for the presentation, I would like to make a quick reminder of our golden rules. So the speakers are requested to make the self-introduction as they begin the presentation. And the presenters can take 20 minutes time to present the paper and another 10 minutes time to facilitate a question and answer right after each presentation. And the participants, the audience are requested to put your comments, your observation, your question down on the chat box while the presentation is still going on. So do we have Dr. Sage Krishnamurti? Okay, so I think he has not joined. So I think we shall move on with the second presenter for the session. So we have Dr. Barbara Sangma, and the title of her paper is the importance and significance of rice vis-a-vis the A-chik tribe. So ma'am, you can take your time. And I request you to please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Esther. And a very good morning to Professor Patnaik and other dignitaries, professors, and other very respected audience. I am Barbara S. Sangma. I teach in Don Bosco College at the undergraduate level. I teach English, but my other interests are folklore, translation, and also I dabble a little bit in poetry, though I cannot call myself a full-fledged poet. But I think all of us were associated in either way with folklore or with literature. I think in one way or the other, we are poets, we are creators. So that way we can, all of us have a claim. That's a little bit about myself. The topic that I'm going to present to you, I find is a little different from others in the sense I am presenting about origin of food. The topic is the importance and significance of rice vis-a-vis A-chik or Garo tribe. Garo tribe is the well-known, the generally known as Garo, but then we like to call ourselves A-chik because actually we are A-chiks, but then Garo is a name given by outsiders to us. So slowly we are trying to get back to that original name of A-chik, and the language spoken by us is known as A-chikku, or the language of the A-chiks. I begin. I think I have, I'm presenting the points. Is my slide visible?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I think, wait. I shall have to share the screen, yes. Is it visible now?
It's coming. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am, it's visible
So
now.
my topic is the importance and significance of rice vis-a-vis the A-chik or Garo tribe.
You go for the full screen.
I'm reading.
You go for the full screen. Click on
Okay.
slideshow.
Yeah. Okay, sir. I'm going for the slideshow and I'm doing from the current slideshow. Okay. So the A-chiks or the Garos are one of the three major tribes of the state of Meghalaya in the northeastern region of India bordering Bangladesh. Since A-chiks are not well known, I would also like to mention that the A-chiks or the Garos follow a matrilineal and matrilocal tradition. This could have been a topic for another presentation. Rice is the staple food of the A-chik or Garo tribe and is generally eaten 3 times a day, early morning, midday, and late evening. It is significant that the 3 meals of the day are called mi prung, mi sal, and mi atam. Here mi means rice, and prung means morning, sal means day, and atam means evening. So in other words, the meal times are named morning rice, day rice, and evening rice. So it is not surprising, when among the chicks, when we meet each other, invariably we ask each other, "Mita chokma," meaning, "Have you eaten rice?" And the concept of hunger for food for the Garus is inextricably connected with rice, because in English or in some other languages, people say, "I am hungry" in general. But then for us chicks, when we are hungry, we say miokria, means I am hungry for rice. So it can be seen that the meal means for an A-chik a meal composed of rice, and generally A-chiks do not feel that they had had a meal until and unless they had had a meal composed of rice. Guests are generally not sent away without proper meal of rice. The accompaniments, the curry may be anything, but then we generally serve guests with rice. Rice is generally eaten with curry made of vegetables, meat, fish, dry fish, fermented soya, fermented bamboo shoot, smoked fish, etc. Garo Hills or the districts in Meghalaya, which is the home of the A-chiks, is fertile, and varieties of fruits are grown here. Jackfruits, mangoes, bananas, tamarinds, bear, etc. are found almost in every front yard or backyard of every family. However, very often fruits are not harvested and they are left to be consumed by children. Fruit is not considered a serious item of meal and is consumed by adults, if consumed at all, only as a pastime. I feel this is one reason why, the A-chik tribe, despite the rich vegetation, fruits, and agricultural products, and a lot of edible forest products, feels generally, that sense of poverty when it comes to food, sorry. On the whole, the tribe is taken so much with rice that they forget that other items of food are just as nutritious and life-sustaining as rice. Now, the importance and significance of rice vis-a-vis the A-chik tribe can be understood and fathomed when one looks at the myth or discovery of rice. the myth of finding rice has it that Ani Apilpa Chini Galapa, a man, was on his way to the weekly market. You know, A-chiks reside in very thick forests, in hills and all that. And then they used to take days and days in order to reach a marketplace. They would carry along with them food for the way, and they would camp on the way and make food. Then Salgra is the sun god and the god of fertility of the A-chiks. He happened to meet man, Ania Pilpa Chini Galapa, en route the market, and desired to sit and share food with him, the midday meal, that is misal. Then the man found that god, Salgra, had packed rice as his midday meal, but man had packed only hairy yam, kochu, no, kachu we call it, hairy yam as his midday meal. And when man realized that his food was of inferior quality, he was embarrassed and ashamed to sit with Salgra and eat along with him. Then a god, Salgra, found out that man had packed only hairy yam for his midday meal. And then, you know, there was that magnanimity on the part of the god. He shared his rice midday meal with man and inquired for man whether they didn't have any rice, okay? Then man told the god that that was the first time he was seeing rice. That was the time the god Salgra, okay, the god of fertility and the god of sun, promised man to send three ogron, meaning same, meaning rice, okay, meaning paddy seeds. Salgra promised that he would be sending to man. Then, however, Salgra commanded man to remember him at every harvest time and set aside a portion of paddy or rice and to pour out rice beer before the people start eating the new rice and start drinking the new wine. This is the command of Salgra. Please follow my cursor. When the paddy turns yellow, when the paddy turns golden yellow, when fruits mature, when the season mellows, do not eat without remembering me, do not drink without my memory, do call on my name, set aside a portion for me, and do not forget to pay obeisance to me. In order to honor the command and bidding of the god Salgra, the A-chiks celebrate a post-harvest festival called Wangala every year. It is a festival of thanksgiving where the choices of fruits are offered to Salgra, the sun god, and Mima Kiri Rokme, the mother goddess of paddy, and she is also the monsoon goddess. During the ceremony, the sun god is invoked and revered and shown gratitude by this chanting. To you, my ally, to you, my friend, here I set aside and offer the first seeds that has been formed, the first grains of life that has come into being. Do not be angry with me, nor harbor any ill will towards me, nor shed a tear. You are my ally, you are my friend, giver of seeds, giver of grains. You cause plants to grow, multiply, thrive, and prosper. You animate the grains and fill up the hollow of the seeds. As I am about to taste the produce of the farm, I have set aside food and drinks for you. Do bless, bestow, guard, and watch over us in days to come. So that was the incantation during the time of Wangala, in the beginning of Wangala, telling the god Salgra that man has not forgotten his blessing and he is there to remember and set aside or offer the first fruits of the annual season to the god. Now, A-chiks believe that the god and goddess associated with the farming and harvest do not stay with them all the time. They appear at the specific time when the specific duties are required and return to the abode after the harvest. Thus, Wangala festival is also a time for entertaining the gods and according them a befitting farewell, so that they revisit the farms and the agricultural lands in the farming season and bless them again with good harvest in the year to come, in the next year. A-chiks believe that goddess of paddy, Mimakiri Rokme, goes back to her abode, which is the ocean, after her work is done in the agricultural field, and she would return only for the next season of cultivation. This is why A-chiks hold that solemn festival of Wangala for god Salgra, the giver of paddy, seeds, and to the goddess Rokme, who makes the plants grow and bear fruits. The return of Mimaki Rokme, the mother goddess of paddy, to her abode in the ocean can be seen as a voluntary immersion, as a kind of visarjan. And it speaks about also the cycle of death and life of vegetation, because the presence of Rokme among men marks the season of monsoon, and her going away marks the beginning of the dry season. And this kind of this concept of vegetation, death and resurrection, and immersion of the god, killing of the god, is echoed in so many agricultural races around the world. A-chiks generally practice mixed cropping. However, the best portion of the Jum field in front of the field shed, known as Jamadal, is reserved for cultivation of the very best variety of paddy. This portion of paddy is meant for the god Salgra and the goddess Mimakiri Rokme. This spot and the paddy grown here is considered sacred. Harvesting is done by breaking the paddy stalks using bare hands. Generally, I have seen people harvesting with using shite or sickle, but then harvesting for the god and the goddess is done with bare hands, plucking this way. As the paddy sheaves are broken, the harvesters, the A-chik harvesters, cry out, Rokme is beheaded. The god of paddy seeds, the god of paddy is executed. And very fittingly, this ritual of harvesting for the god is known as Amaratta. Ama means mother and Ratta means cutting. That means cutting of the mother or killing the mother goddess of paddy. In the process of my research, I have also read The Golden Bough by Fraser. Although it is a very old book, I think it still serves for the agricultural races around. And we have got some similarities when it comes to killing the god and the resurrection and, corn spirit and all that. I have found that similarity there. Now, just as in the writings there about some of the agricultural people around the world, the Garos also believed that the spirits of the gods remain with people until the day of Wangala, that is when they are given the solemn farewell. And the representative form or the emblematic form of the spirits of Salgra, the sun god, and Mimakiri Rokme, the goddess of paddy, are carried down to the village as paddy sheaves tied to a pole called Mimangot, and is placed in their respective homes tied to a sacred post. As a representative of paddy sheaves are carried down, the villagers ululate, ahaya, okay? I'm very sorry, although I'm from Northeast and known for singing and all that, I'm not good in singing, so I cannot, replicate that. But then the tune is very nice, ahaya, which is an invocation and invitation to the spirits to come and dwell with the farmers in the village until they are given the solemn farewell. And then the spirits are believed to come down and dwell with the beneficiaries till they are given the solemn farewell. The A-chiks also use rice to brew an alcoholic drink, which they call chu. An undiluted chu, which is called chubitchi, is offered as a libation to the god and goddess before the people begin drinking during the Wangala festival. In the past, chu was brewed in all the houses and was kept available for special occasions like visits, marriage, ceremonial rituals, death, funerals, etc. The paddy yield and rain and clouds are closely linked. During the time of the Wangala ceremony, there is an incensing ritual where the smoke rising from the burnt incense symbolized the rain-bearing clouds and the volume of rain that irrigated the land that particular year. Rain and paddy are the personifications of Mimaki Rokame, goddess of monsoon and mother goddess of paddy. This brings to mind that there are suggestions of personifying the corn as a mother goddess in agricultural races around the world, and the personification has been applied to other indigenous cereals than barley and wheat. So Himakiri Rokme, and her spirit is shown emblematically in the sheaves of paddy that is tied to a pole. The incense ritual is followed by strewing and scattering of cooked rice on the floor of the house of Nokma, or chief of the clan. The quantity of rice thus scattered symbolized the quantity of paddy yield of that particular year. A ritual dance is performed by the chief. However, it must be mentioned that nowadays, due to dwindling agricultural yield, this scattering of rice, this ritual is performed only as a symbolic gesture because people can no longer afford to scatter such huge quantities of rice. One very important point to mention here is that because rice is intrinsically connected with the gods and goddesses of the indigenous religion of the A-chiks, known as Songsarik, there are areas in Garo Hills where the Orthodox A-chiks consider an outsider anyone who buys rice from the market sold by people from the plain area. Rice is also important to the A-chiks because they have a spirit guarding the big earthen jar used to store rice, which is called Rongdik, okay? And the spirit that is guarding the earthen jar containing rice, storing rice, is called Rongdikni mite. Rongdik means the earthen jar, mite means the spirit. And this particular Rongdikni mite, or rice, spirit of the rice jar, is acknowledged and special ritual performed to please this spirit during the Wangala festival. Rice is important to the A-chiks not only during the time of life here on earth, but it is also of significance in life after death. There is a tradition of tying up paddy seeds on poles for the dead. It is believed the deceased, the dead, takes the paddy seeds along to the land of the dead and cultivates it there. A post-funeral ceremony of the A-chiks is of significant importance, okay, and the ceremony is not complete without that mi-me-mang. Mi-me-mang means rise of the spirit or the ghosts. Mi-me-mang is rice cooked in a pot, especially for the dead, and it is set aside so that the deceased may partake of the meal along with the living. When a powerful and rich person dies, in the earlier times, he used to be given a bath using rice beer. But again, we cannot afford this now because the product has become so less. Rice is also very often referred to as Rongjanggi. It is a compound word. Rong means grain and janggi means life, soul, or spirit. Thus, rice is considered life-giving grain. And it also means that the grain carries in itself the power to perpetuate life of its own kind. You know, the A-chiks till very recent times had very little use for snacks. It is true that they cultivated tapioca, sweet potato, and their gardens yielded variety of fruits. However, they always preferred snacks, if they do at all, that is rice-based, like rongchu or flattened rice, Rongbret ginde or roasted and powdered rice, and muri or puffed rice, which has come at a later date from Garos associating with other communities nearby. These are the rice snacks. Then there are other snacks made of rice that have evolved over the years, like rice pita, sakkan gatta, jacket, etc. I'm not giving the translation. Till a few years back, it was not unusual for the A-chiks to pay work or labor with a quantity of rice or paddy. There are instances among the A-chik tribe, especially among the A-chiks who are living in the very limited plain area, to take on informal contracts to perform the whole agricultural work for the whole season in exchange for a quantity of paddy. Just to say that paddy is important to the A-chiks this way also, because it can be exchanged for a service in lieu of cash. You know, I have come up with this topic. There are many others actually which I could which I could have discussed, which I could have you know, searched and researched and talked about. For example, you know, I could have talked about matrilineality and all that, but I thought when I begin to think about this topic, I found similarities in tribes around the world. Tribes that are still continuing to firm in a basic way. That's why I have come up with this. Now, by way of conclusion, I know I'm ahead of time. This A-chik myth of procuring of paddy tells us that rice is a gift from the gods to man. There was a gaping difference between man and God. While man was eating only hairy yam or maybe some other forest products. However, man is enabled to enjoy rice, which once was eaten only by God Salgra. I see it personally as man being elevated to a position where he partakes of the same food as the God. The act of eating rice is a reminder of man's sacred encounter with God. We all know that there is an English idiom to break bread with somebody, which means to eat with somebody, to communicate, to be in communion, to share. Now, in the act of Salgra, blessing man with paddy seeds and sharing food with man, we find God Salgra breaking bread with man. There is that communion. The God and man, the giver and the receiver, the benefactor and the beneficiary, meeting in the sharing of the same grain of rice. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to change my slides. I think I should stop sharing now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the very interesting presentation. So, I mean, the importance of rice and, you know, the idea of how rice as an item of sustenance and its implication is tied to the whole idea of cultural dimension. It's really interesting. You have by taking the context of Wangala festival, you have explored rice and the whole nuances of it that is specific to the A-chik tribe. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
So I think I shall move on to taking a few questions for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah, so ma'am, the first question for you is from Mahesh Kumar Day. He asked, what are other crops used by the tribe?
Okay, thank you for the question. Rice is the staple food, but we have got other crops. The second crop will be millet. Okay, sometimes when we run short of rice, when the rice produce is not sufficient, millet is mixed with rice and it is cooked. Then we have got a variety of yams, both grown in the agricultural land and also wild yams are aplenty. Actually, for the willing and the able-bodied who has got will, there is no lack of food. But then people are really ignorant. They don't know how to make use of food, and the whole attitude towards food is directed only towards rice. That's why, there is a feeling of lack. And then other food items by way of vegetables, we have variety of pumpkins. We have got sesame, which is a very important ingredient, I think, even for bakery and as a kind of, as a kind of maybe in lieu of, instead of masala, maybe sometimes we use sesame seed, a variety of vegetables from the family of legumes, beans, green vegetables, tapioca are plenty, citrus is plenty. Citrus, during the citrus season, if you go to the villages, they just rot and they fall to the ground. Jackfruit stages rot on the trees and they fall, and then we don't even bother. I really feel bad because we don't have means of transporting. Our transport system is very bad, so we cannot transport. And yes, banana is plentiful in Garo Hills. You also have heard about the Rongbre in Assam on the Garo Hills border. That market, banana market, is, I think, well known now. That banana market is getting supplies mostly from Garo Hills. And pineapples, I think one of the best, sweetest ones. Oranges, cash crops would be jute, and then a bit of cotton. And now we are going into rubber. Of course, that will come into horticulture. I hope that answers the question that you have put for me.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So the next question is from Professor P.C. Patnaik. He asked, please discuss some food items made of rice.
Okay, food items made of rice other than the meal. For meal, we boil. Okay, we boil, but we don't say boil in our language. We say we cook it. And then there is another type of rice is basically glutinous and non-glutinous. Non-glutinous one is what we are eating. Glutinous rice, sticky rice, which is also of great aroma. It is generally used to make snacks, but we also use it simply as steamed. We soak it overnight and then we steam it in the morning. And nowadays, people who are not really engaged in farming sometimes start a day with glutinous rice as a kind of breakfast. Now, coming to rice snacks, I have mentioned jakep. Jakep is a kind of food item made with rice flour, which is mixed with sesame, black sesame mostly, and it is folded this way like a fist. Okay, and in Garo, this folded fist is known as jakep. That's why in English it will be folded a fist. Okay, it is fist. It is made by Assamese also. I don't know whether we learned it from Assamese because Assam and Garo Hills, we are living tangentially. And then the other one is sakkan. Sakkan is a form of rice snack, which is again made of rice flour. It is rice flour. Rice is pounded into powder, into flour, and then it is put into a steaming pot for steaming, and it is put layer by layer. First layer may be rice, second layer is sesame seed, then sugar or jaggery, then sometimes we also put coconut, and then it goes on layer upon layer. And when it is cooked, it is fluffy, somewhat like dokla. Then it is fluffy and it is cut, and then a chunk of it, like slices of it, like cake, it is distributed and eaten. Then pita, of course, I think it's very easy to understand. We can have pita made of dough, dry dough, or we can have pita made of a very slurry, watery kind of rice flour mixed with jaggery. Some people also mix a little bit of egg and all that. according to one's preference. Okay, these are the rice items. And then one very important thing to mention about cooking of garos or A-chiks, I think it is applicable to whole of Northeast, is we also cook glutinous rice in bamboo tubes. Glutinous rice is soaked overnight, and in the morning, bamboo tube, new one is taken because there has to be that water retention. Dry bamboo would be, would get burned very soon. So we take new bamboo and then we clean it, and then we line it with a banana leaf, and then rice is put into it, and then it is, cooked over a very slow fire. Of course, it is very slow process, but then the end result is very good. And when we take out and when we cut it, it looks somewhat like sushi. Okay, the shape is somewhat like sushi, and it is also cut. When we cut, it comes out like sushi pieces. Okay, that's about, I think. Other than this, I don't remember. There might be more, but then there has been a lot of cultural exchanges, Garos borrowing from maybe also from Bengalis, also from Assamese, and there are also Garos who have migrated from Bangladesh in the 1964 ethnic conflict, and they have brought in quite a lot of Bengali culture from there, and so quite a lot of mixing, quite a lot of mingling, quite a lot of addition has been there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You have more question from the audience. So the next question is from Ruchi Rana. She says, "Thank you, ma'am, for telling us the significance of rice in the foodways of A-chik tribe. Could you tell us about the socio-cultural importance of uh, chubitchi?
Chubitchi.
Yeah, chubitchi for the community."
Okay, thank you. This is an interesting question. Okay, chubitchi basically is an undiluted rice beer. And chubitchi is of socio-cultural importance, first of all, because it is offered to the god. Without offering to the god, we cannot take that. But then after the Wangala, this chubitchi or chu is supposed to be, brewed, supposed to be in all the houses because it is supposed to be served to the guests. Okay, but then again, when I talk about this, we are talking in ambivalent terms, or maybe there is a kind of duality or dichotomy, whatever, because as I'm talking mostly about my tribesmen, my A-chik people who are still practicing indigenous religion. Okay, there is that Garos who are already Christians and Garos who are still practicing indigenous religion. This practice of chubitchi, a celebration of Wangala, and then incensing ceremony, all these are practiced by A-chiks who are still practicing indigenous religion. But whatever it is, the socio-cultural importance of chubitchi is quite deep, because it is supposed to be a welcome drink. When a guest comes, every guest is welcome with chubitchi. And then according to the wealth and the possession and the prominence of the person, the host, the feasting can go on, and one jar of chu or rice beer after the other can be brought out, because they brew and keep, and then drinking can go on for quite many days. Okay, if the host is very rich, a lot of people come to his house, and then they partake of the meal that is served to the guests. That way, chubitchi is important. And then nowadays, chubitchi also is of importance because it's a very nice drink. Not very, of course, it is alcoholic, but again, it is good for socializing. Even women are allowed to have it. There is no restriction. Among the Garos, there is no restriction as far as drinks is concerned, that then during the ceremony we drink from gourd, no? Dried gourd, this way. I have it actually, but I did not keep it nearby, so I cannot show you. So chubitchi from socio-cultural point of view is very important because it is a welcoming drink. It is first of all a sacred drink during the Wangala festival. It is offered to the gods first, only then human beings can participate. And then it brings people together. It gives them, a kind of camaraderie, a kind of fellowship. And then people, if I'm in the village and I don't have a jar of chubitchi, then I would definitely send for one from my neighbors. I would borrow.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. The next question for you is from Pavitra Kumari. She says, "Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening presentation. Can you elaborate upon the symbolic significance of uh, decide and resurrection in the community?"
Okay. So this concept of death and resurrection, not decide, I think it must be a death. The concept of death and resurrection associated with vegetation, I think it is there in all the communities around the world. Today, maybe in more, how to say, literary communities, maybe this is being interpreted in different ways, but then for so many of our works, for so many of our writings, we are falling back again and again to these kind of, concept, the very basic concept of what is a heathen, no? It can be, the concept of death and resurrection is basically pagan. But then I think religions around the world, we deal with it, we talk about it. Now, when I was talking about the concept of death and resurrection in my paper with reference to cultivation, I was referring mainly to the goddess Mima Kiri Rokme. Mima Kiri Rokme is the goddess of paddy, okay? And she is a symbol of death and resurrection because, she is believed to visit the farms during the month of April, May, okay? To be more precise, I think, because that is the time when it starts raining in our region. And with that rain, the grains that the A-chiks sow in the June field, they begin to sprout, they begin to germinate. So that is resurrection, okay? And then Mima Kiri Rokame stays with the A-chiks, stays in the plantation, seeing that, they grow, seeing that they thrive, they prosper, and then seeing that, the fruits come out of the fields, they yield fruit. That means Mima Kiri Rokme is none other than monsoon, rain, okay? And rain, it rains from somewhere about mid-April or May till the end of September. That is when we celebrate harvest, okay? So Mima Kiri Rokme lives with us for all these months. And then end of September or beginning of October up to November, Wangala is celebrated at different times in different places all over Garo Hills. That is the time that Mima Kiri Rokme is given farewell because she will be going back to the ocean. That is seen as death, okay? She is immersing herself, that Visarjan, no? That I have seen Durga Puja many a times, and as children we used to go to see the Visarjan where the goddess Durga is immersed into the water. So I see Mima Kiri Rokme going back to the ocean as a voluntary immersion. We people, we don't immerse her, but then she immerses herself voluntarily and she goes back to her abode, and that is her death. Okay, that is symbolically her death, and that is acted out by the Garos when they harvest that sacred paddy. As they break the paddy with their hands, the sheaves with their hands, they say, Mima Kiri Rokme is executed. She is killed. her head is cut off, so that is death. Okay, and after that the goddess is believed to return to her abode, that is her death, and she will resurrect along with the resurrection of the vegetation. Okay, because April is a time, April and May is a time of spring, when vegetation springs back to life. That is a resurrection. I hope I have answered your question.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Actually, we still have more questions, but because of time constraint, I wouldn't be taking any more. You can keep engaging in the chat box. There is the one comment that I would like to read out. This is from Professor P.C. Patnaik. He says, "Congratulations, Dr. Barbara. In fact, this is the first presentation on A-chik tribe Garo culture in my department. Thank you so much, ma'am."
Thank you so
Okay,
much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
so with this, I shall move on to the next presenter. We have Dr. Mahesh Day, and the title of his paper is Indian Folk Life, Reflection on the Tribal People of Gujarat. So, sir, please unmute yourself and take your time. So, I request you to kindly introduce yourself as well.
Yeah. So good morning, everybody. So I am Dr. Mahesh Kumar De. I teach English here at the Bir Narmad South Gujarat University, Surat. So I am a research scholar of Native Canadian fiction, and I was awarded Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute's fellowship in 2007 to do my research on native writers. I visited University of Manitoba once, and then for 4 weeks, and I completed a small project. And then I go back to Canada again and again with regard to my new interest, that is called digital humanities. So when I have worked on Native Canadian writers and Native Canadian people, so indirectly you can understand that my interest is with indigenous people mostly with regard to their fictional writings. But we sometimes combine or blend fiction with fact. So mostly we consider fictional narratives as historical narratives, with in case of the Aboriginal people, a very thin line we have to draw between fiction and reality. So that's why this is my first attempt with the Indian tribal people, because I have migrated to the western coast, western part of India from the eastern coast, Bay of Bengal, and in the eastern part there is hardly we have tribal population. So as a child, as a growing up youth, I had no chance to meet any tribal population of Odisha even. So when I reached the university, only I came across some friends belonging to tribal population, tribal communities in Odisha. Then when I came here to Surat before 25 years, then I met every year my students who mostly belong to the South Gujarat region, and particularly covering 7 to 8 districts of South Gujarat. So we have many tribal communities, and most of the students, they join this university department to study literature. And but irony, I have observed them, but I have never tried to explore their culture and talking to them personally. So whatever I have done, I always say, because I'm a scholar of native studies, that my perspective will be an outsider's perspective, and it will be based on secondary resources collected from articles and essays and some videos or books on the website. So this is my title. This is my brief introduction on myself, and my presentation will be Indian Folk Life, Reflections on the Tribal People of Gujarat. I gave the general title just to have a kind of introduction on my topic first, as a kind of newcomer to this field of folklore studies. And but afterwards, I then thought that it would be too broad, and I confined myself to a few communities and just to give you a kind of highlights. And so this is the abstract that I sent. In the abstract, I first began with folk studies or folklore studies, And as a part of folklore studies, we are supposed to include social customs, religious beliefs, cultural traditions, and literary practices of the communities. And because we are a very multilingual and multicultural nation, so Indian tribal population is also as diversified community as, for example, Indian civilization. So in order to know any particular tribal community, we have to do a lot of research. And that's why I just wrote the abstract in a quick way in response to Professor Patnaik's invitation. And then I thought that how should I go ahead with my presentation? Then I thought that this should be the first attempt. So this paper is an attempt at presentation of the tribal people of Gujarat. This is an introduction of the folk life they live in their respective regions. And this presentation is made to analyze the social customs and practices of the tribal groups of South Gujarat region. And then I cannot give justice, but sometimes I feel that while hearing them, that the purity of their dialects must be documented and preserved. That is lacking still. And then the folk literature, including stories, poetry, drama, songs, and they are, for example, to be analyzed in my future course of action. I went back to one book called Folklife and Field Study. There it is Peter Battis writes there. He uses in the context of American folk life, but I just drop America there and I quote that. Folk life is the traditional, expressive, shared culture of various groups. These groups include familial, ethnic, occupational, religious, regional in a nation. Expressive culture includes a wide range of creative and symbolic forms such as custom, belief, technical skill, language, drama, ritual, pageant, and handicraft. Generally, these expressions are learned orally by imitation or in performance and are maintained or perpetuated without formal instruction or institutional direction, unquote. So when we think of documenting folk life of a group or a nation, many kinds of traditional activities come to our mind. The folklorists have enlisted many items as expression of traditional culture. I mention a few below: oral and musical traditions, material culture, family life, food, beliefs, and festivals. Each tribal group has its own tradition bearers. They have used the phrase tradition bearers, including elders, storytellers, musicians, craftsmen, local folk artists, and guides in community. They work as resource centers of cultural materials of respective groups. A folklorist has to visit library, museum, and use the internet to collect these specific cultural materials about the tribal groups. One can go for the field works to gain the first-hand knowledge of the people and their folk life. Many former folklorists have undertaken research and prepared books on these tribal people and their cultures. Not only printed, but also audio, video materials of ceremonies and performances have been archived for future scholars like me. In Gujarat, if we look at the demography of tribal people, the Tribal Development Department of Gujarat has its own website. And in this website, it mentions that Gujarat accounts for 8% of the scheduled tribe population of the country. The tribal population of Gujarat numbers about 89 lakhs and constitutes 15% of the state's total population. They are concentrated in almost all districts, spanning from Mount Abu on the Rajasthan border to Dahanu district on the Maharashtra border. So I copied this slide from the website of Gujarat Tribal Development Department. And then in 1962, the government of Gujarat also founded the Tribal Research and Training Institute to do research-based activities in various tribal groups of the state. There are 25 tribal communities listed in the website, including 5 primitive tribal groups. They are spread over 26 districts of the state. Some of these groups include Bada and Baucha and Bharwad and Bhil and Charan and Chaudhuri, Dodia and Gamit, Halpati, Kunkna, Naikda, Rabari, Rathua and Basawa and Warli and Tadbi. The Bhasa Research and Publication Center and its affiliated institution, the Adivasi Academy at Tezgad near Baroda, have been working for the study and conservation of the Adivasi languages and culture. There are tribal museums in district headquarters and educational institutions to popularize and preserve the tribal people's culture as a part of ecotourism projects initiated by the central and state government schemes. In this context, I would like to quote Professor Ganesh Devi, who is the founder of this Bhasa Research Publication Center and also the Adivasi Academy founding director. And he was making a talk, delivering a speech on a re-evaluation of Adivasi heritage, and his title was Museum and Society. There he states, there is an intimate connection between the historical process of the creation of Adivasi as a social category and the construction of the knowledge about the Adivasi communities, as well as the popular imagery of Adivasis. Therefore, the management of memory in relation to the Adivasi communities is likely to run into contradictions when placed within the institutionalized and public spaces. In order to get beyond these contradictions, it becomes necessary to privilege the oral over the written and the myth over history, unquote. So this is Professor Ganesh Devi's statement with regard to museum and society. So when we, for example, think about the oral culture of the tribal people, so what we find that each tribal group has its own story or many stories about its origin and establishment. For example, the term Bada with regard to Bada community, the Bada word means hilly region. So the tribal people from the hilly region call themselves as Bada. They are believed to have been migrated from the Khandwa region of Madhya Pradesh, maybe that is written the Khandes. So that is why they are called the Khandesi Bhil, as they are a subgroup of the Bhil tribe. The term Bharwad is derived from another word called Badawad, generally known to be the breed of cattle breeders. They are from the western region of Gujarat called Saurashtra, covering Rajkot, Junagadh, Surendranagar and Bhavnagar districts. This Bharwad tribe is divided popularly into two groups called Mota Bhai and Nana Bhai. Humorously, these two terms are used in Gujarat as a kind of popular affix for the elder brother and the younger brother. But it is used there in the community in this way to divide them into subgroups. So there are various myths about their region. One version states that their ancestors came from the Gokul Vrindavan area near Mathura of UP. They migrated to the Mewar area of Rajasthan and then to the Saurashtra area of Gujarat, settling down near the Gir forest region. Another version states that a tribal leader, namely Anabil Bharwad, helped the king Vanraj Chowda to recapture his lost kingdom, and his descendants are known to be the Bharwads of Gujarat. The Mota Bhai could get abundant pasture lands as they used to worship the Govardhan Giri. They are mostly vegetarians, and the other Bharwads like Nana Bhai are non-vegetarians and they depend on sheep and cattle breeding. The most important or the second largest scheduled tribe of India is called the Bhil tribe. So they are residents of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra and MP. In Gujarat, there are two subgroups known as Bhil Gorasia and Dholi Bhil. Other subgroups are Basava Bhil, Paura Bhil or Pawar Bhil and Tadai Bhil. There are many traditional clans of this Bhil tribe. Some clan names include Ahir, Bhavre, Bhore, Kole, Vijari, Baganda, Borse, Gaikwad, Mali, Basava and Pawar. All believe that they have a common ancestry from ancient times and are very much conscious of their unity and brotherhood. So from these clan names, you can see how they are very close to our Indian caste system. So there are castes and there are subcastes, and each caste, for example, will having some family trade or business. So that's how they are also becoming, for example, Hindu or Aryans very close. So with these comments, so I actually go back to their, for example, family traditions, and particularly I observed from their stories that they have very, very decorous and ceremonious kind of marriage tradition, and that they observe like Hindu marriages, and they, for example, do all the steps of marriage like sagai and they called Lagan, the Sagai and Lagan, and they have also the Gujarati local customs, and they celebrate some of their festivals like Sangeet or Garba, and usually the Barat goes with in a tempa or a tractor, small tractor, to the bride's place, and they get married and they come back and they have this havan. This particular provision is already there. But in case of one common aspect which you can see, the daughters of the families are don't have the inheritance right. So they usually, the son of the family must inherit the property, and the eldest son will be the head of the next generation. And if there is no son in the family, so that the son-in-law or the brother's son will be adopted to be the head of to the inheritor. So that's a very peculiar. Nowadays, I don't know, the practice must be changed, but that is how they, for example, they accept in their way. So when we, for example, do the stratification of the tribes, so mostly some of them are having land and some of them are don't have the land. So many tribal people are becoming landless laborers in different parts of the districts. Nowadays, they have industrial workers also in the neighboring units, industrial units. So laborers mostly were exploited earlier by landlords, or for example, we call feudal jamidars, money lenders those days. So nowadays, there has been a stratification made by Professor Ghanshyam Shah of Center for Social Studies, where he has divided the tribal population into 3 different categories. So he says upper farmers, upper tribals, and middle tribals, and lower tribals. You can see when we say upper or rich, they are, for example, they are Rabari people and some other landlords. So who are actually landowners, so they are very much rich. So they try to exploit other tribal groups in their own communities. So that's why there is a upper class, but they are very few. The percentage is very less than 2%, you may say, among the tribal communities. But when you come to the middle class, so they are, for example, workers in their own field, and sometimes they work in, when they have a less fund, and then they go to the neighbor's land. And when they're the lower class, particularly, I remember some of my students belonging to Halpati community here in the South Gujarat region. So they are completely landless laborers. So they go to industrial units, they go to landlords in the neighboring villages, or jamidars, or for example, the Brahmin families, and they are very much exploited with a minimum wage they have to work. So with this, I, for example, conclude their family tradition. And if there is a, for example, child in the family, so the mother and the pregnant lady is also given some restrictions to stay inside one corner of the house. She cannot come to the kitchen to cook something, and she may go out to work in the field, but she cannot join in any family functions during that period and during the pregnancy period. So they have a very particular category. I read in many society customs that they have a pre-delivery ritual, namely called Kol Bharana, that is observed in the 7th month of the first pregnancy. After the birth of the child, the Suraj Pujan, or worship of sun, is performed on the 6th day, and the house is cleaned, and the mother and the baby are brought out of the house under the sunlight. The purification is done with a feast for the close kin of the community. The women do not inherit these traditions actually, but they have this practice also in many communities. Now, when I come to the song and the musical part, because I cannot actually go into the cultural aspect that way. So I thought that I will show you some slides, that I move on to my rest of my time to some slides. And these slides I have taken from the different websites, and you can images, which you can see that how the tribal people are actually trying to perform the dances of varieties when they are observing the festivals. So the festivals are a very important part of these tribal people. So for example, they practice Navratri, they practice Dasara Puja, they practice Diwali, they practice Holi, And so all the major, they practice Shivratri. So all the major festivals that are there, they are practiced by Hindus, so they also practice the same way, but they have different god and goddess to worship. So some of the festivals and cultures of these tribal people are, one is called Bhanguriu, that is held in March and celebrated by the Rathua tribe before the Holi begins. It is a musical event with men and women dressed colorfully, and they are dancing with musical instruments in the village market areas. There is that's called Ghol Ghodi no Melo. That is also held in March, very near to Surat. There is a place called Mahua, and the members of the Halpati community and Konkana community and Gamit community, they come together to the common weekly market area to buy terracotta objects for their worship. And there is a very famous event in the South Gujarat region that is called Dang Darbar. So that continues for a week, and before the Holi, and it continues after Holi also. So in the Dang Darbar, a few days before Holi, that is in the Ahwa district in the Dang region. So Darbar means we usually called an assembly of kings and monarchs, but here it is usually an assembly of different clan pradhans or patels or pramukhs of neighborhood areas. They assemble for the celebration with a lot of enthusiasm. The district collector usually presides over the event as the Prabhari. A large number of tribals as well as the general public, they also gather there for from different parts of Gujarat and Maharashtra. So these are some of the slides when they participate in the annual festival called Dang Darbar. And so this is one. I have kept several slides, so I will be winding up my talk with these slides and two videos I have just brought here just to have a cultural test of the communities. So you can see how they are performing their tribal dance. They struggle a lot, but they try to retain their identity with such events regularly. And this is their tribal dance, and they form these structures while dancing on the stage in the open ground. And these are the male performance, they are also dancing. And this is a kind of dance, also group dance, or mostly the tribal dance is a group. So this is a kind of musical instrument which they use for any celebration. They call it Dev Pauri, and or we say, you can say tarpa, you can say this, how they play it on for every occasion. And this is another tribal related with the green, the connection with nature. You can very closely see completely naked bare body with all these leaves decorated on their and this is terracotta items they usually buy from the local market. This is their traditional dress and the jewelry they wear. Still today, the traditional tribal people wearing this kind of dress, and this is the drums that they use for processions, and this is that tarpa instrument that I wanted to say. So these are the musical instruments, and I keep all these slides just for your reference, and the videos that I wanted to share. So I will just go to those videos just to share with you at least one or two items, just to have a kind of experience how we can see this. So the first video I have the marriage of a community that is called a Dang region marriage, Dangi marriage custom. So you can see the narration is in Gujarati, and the marriage is given here. So you can these are available in YouTube. So public forum. So I just picked up 2-3 just to have to justify my presentation. So this is the first video.
Excuse me, sir. So we cannot see the video.
You cannot see?
No. We can only see your slide.
Okay, but
We can hear the audio but not see the video.
Now you can see.
No, sir. Sir, we cannot see. I don't know if it is just on my screen or I cannot see it. I don't know if the rest can see it.
But you can see the audio. You can hear the audio.
Yes, sir.
Only audio is audible, sir. Video is, I think you have given YouTube link. You click on the YouTube link, it will go to directly to YouTube.
Okay, okay. Let me see. Now it is seen.
No, sir,
No,
not
sir.
yet.
Now you can see.
No, sir, not yet.
Sir, you copy and share that information, that link in the chat box, so that we can see that information directly.
So I will directly give the click now. Let us see, because I started that video earlier. So I think that's why the problem. But now let me see. Is it seen now by my video, my screen?
No, sir. The PPT is still there.
Acha.
Sir, you have to stop this share, then you can go to YouTube, sir. At one time, one screen only can be shared, because that must be another screen.
Okay, so I have to stop my PPT screen.
Yes, then you have to copy this YouTube link and show that screen.
Okay. The screen is paused. No, I think there has been a problem which I don't get here. So
I think you can share the link in the chat box. So
that I will do. That also okay. Now I can see, I can get it, but that is the problem. Okay. So these are some of the videos. I will share the link in the chat box, and so that will be better, because the videos are available. Only these are, I selected a few. So one which I wanted to say that this is a video which is about Bhaya Nrutya. So in the Bhaya Nrutya, you can see that is a holy and traditional dance of Dang Adivasis. It is performed for the happiness of the family and of villagers. So Dangi people believe in the Dangur Dev Mahadev and also Mauli Mata. They pray to these gods through this dance. So this Bhaya Nrutya has many steps one by one, and which we have to actually see there. And regarding this another, that is a comedy they celebrate when they have cultural event. They are called it Dangi Tamasa Party. So it's a comedy. You can see the mixture of Gujarati and Marathi dialects. Or the comedians and the jokers, the clans, they just come to the stage and perform the comedy, which is maybe you can say parodical picture of the society. So that is one which I selected, Dangi Tamasa Party. And then the other audio which I said, that is the Pauri musician playing that instrument in a very systematic manner. So that we have to see how the musical instrument is a part of their culture. Drums or nagada or dhol that they call, or pauri, and then all the songs and regarding birth and regarding death, regarding everywhere they have some native songs. They memorize it from their ancestors and they try to perform on specific occasions. So this was, for example, the practice of the tribal communities, as we see. So with these comments, I come to my conclusion of my presentation. So in my conclusion, I want to say that because Gujarat is a modernized state, and these tribal people actually have many tribals have migrated to cities and towns, having their government jobs and private jobs. So they stay throughout the year in the cities. But now the question comes, the next generation, whether they will inherit these cultural traditions or not. And if they at all try to inherit, so how long or how much they can retain. So that's why I have made these observations. I may be wrong, but the Adivasi people try to preserve their oral traditions and cultural aspects through dialects and songs and dances, social customs and beliefs and practices. The educated people come to cities after getting government and private jobs, but continue to keep themselves connected with their roots, participating in annual festivals and family functions. They speak their own dialects while talking to their communities, but mostly use Gujarati as the medium of communication with general public. They also use the mixed Gujarati and Hindi to communicate with non-Gujarati people. English is also used by few educated tribal people to international tourists. They have started to write down and record their various art forms as a part of documentation and presentation of such traditions to future generations by the use of technology and multimedia tools. I am yet to explore the Adivasi literature available in printed form or also translated into Hindi or English by uh, educated tribal scholars and academicians. For example, when I was looking at the tribal literature, I could not actually make a list separately. I just got one professor's comment there. So his name is Professor Jitendra Vasava, and he teaches at the Adivasi Academy of Tezgad. So while attending a symposium on Gujarati tribal literature, he makes this observation before 1 decade at least, but he says this, I quote, "The Adivasi has always been described as a figure of pity by mainstream writers, but there is a group of tribal writers who through their literature are giving an answer to the questions raised on their identity." Unquote. This is a phase of revolt for tribal people and tribal writers who are trying to showcase the tribes in the same light. It is only after this that the writers can write about the beauty of their world. Unquote. And he further adds towards the conclusion that the tribal's life is like a clean slate in the face of globalization, and it is interesting to see how they are adapting to modernization, which is changing their life and culture. So if this is the situation now, so if at all there will be cultural preservation of the tribal people in a state like Gujarat, so that will be simply by means of some recorded archived material of their songs and dances and musical performances. And otherwise, they will be soon assimilated into the mainstream culture because they speak Gujarati mostly, they are local dialects. There are very distinct dialects, Chaudhary dialects, Rathwa dialects, Bhili dialects. So these dialects will be spoken by very few in the long run if they are not preserved, even though they are transcribed into Gujarati. So with these comments or observations, I just conclude my paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking us through the very intriguing and culturally vibrant world of various tribal groups in Gujarat. So you have attempted to look at the distinctive features of these dynamic communities, taking into considerations their customs, their practices, festivals, and the trajectory of their ancestry. Thank you very much. So just before we move on to take a question for you, I just wanted to make sure if the uh, two presenters are there, Dr. Maheshwaran and Dr. Krishnamurti. Okay, so then we'll move on to taking question for Dr. Mahesh Day. So the first question we have for you, sir, is from Babita. She asked, caste system is based on the belief of different ancestry. How are they like caste if they believe in some common ancestry?
Yes, this is not, I said that caste system of Hindus or Aryans or in our so-called Indian Varna system. This is simply, I said, with reference to Bhil tribes, and they have clan names. I said caste system, clan names, their clan groups are like caste system. Didn't use the system caste system. Their ancestry is common, but they have created a hierarchy among themselves on the basis of their clans. So they have different surnames, and usually they don't go for intermarriages, inter-community marriages. The upper caste tribal will never give marriage to a lower caste tribal. So that is how they strictly follow. Sometimes I also meet my friends from Rabari community and from Bhil community, and so they usually prefer to stay inside that caste. So I just compared that how in India we believe in caste system, but in tribal people, when we say use the word tribal, this is I'm actually questioning the nomenclature. In the Western part, it is good that they use indigenous or aboriginal people, just two words, to say that these people were before the civilization began. But in case of India, we use the tribal only, or Adivasi, or Janjati, or Banjati, so just to include all the tribal people into the same category. But surprisingly, each sub clan or subgroup is different from the other sub clan. So that was my point. I think you should not be confused with the word caste system.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Pavitra Kumari. She asks, Sir, can you tell us a bit more about the religious beliefs of the community? As you mentioned, there are borrowings from Brahmanical Hinduism, but has the community been able to sustain religious practices of independent of these influences?
Yes. So they try to worship the nature, the gods and goddesses related to nature. That is their basic or fundamental religion. That is, we can say, indigenous. So that's why I have some friends and colleagues also who don't have any picture of gods or goddesses in their houses. But as I said, that because they stay in Gujarat and we have the Hindus around, and they celebrate Navratri, they celebrate Dasera, they celebrate Holi. Holi is their main festival. So the practice of worshipping nature goddess is very much there. But along with that, without any image of god or goddesses, they also celebrate the festivals. So they dance in the Garba, they participate in the Garba. They have their traditional Garbas. Adivasi Garba, you can see the videos also there. And so they have very clear, separate, distinct songs and dances for each occasion, and they participate. So that is how they maintain or retain their ethnic identity, practicing their own religion. So we may not say that that is religion, because in case of Aboriginal people, as we said, when you go for a marriage function, they usually beat a small drum called a nagada, and in the beginning of marriage function. So when they beat that, then people around in the neighboring village, they come to support the family. So you can imagine there was no question of inviting one by one, like we say invitation cards. But nowadays in modern times, people print invitation cards and go for distribution among the even community members. But in tribal community, it doesn't happen. So they stick to their ethnic practices, I believe, when they are in the region.
Thank you. The next question is from Ruchi Rana. She's asking, thank you, sir, for the insightful presentation. You mentioned about the current occupations of the tribal as landless laborers and migrant workers in different districts of the region. Could you tell us how COVID has affected the living condition of the tribal communities of Gujarat, since they are most vulnerable, and in what ways they're adopting and responding to the difficulties caused due to the pandemic?
I'm sorry, I have not looked at that aspect. I will definitely see what is the impact of COVID on them. But the reference that I was making to landless laborers only with regard to Halpati community. There is a particular community in the South Gujarat region called Halpati, and that they are the surname they carry, for example, Rathod. They work in the industrial units around, and they work also as landless laborers or workers for the landlords in the neighboring villages. So they go to work from morning to evening and with a very little wage. And in normal time throughout the year, also throughout the year, their situation is very worse. And hand to mouth survival, not educating their children properly. I had, for example, if the government of Gujarat has a campaign called Praveshotshav and Gunotsav. Gunotsav and Praveshotshav is meant for all the children who up to 8th class direct admission in schools. So I have gone to some very progressive villages where the school is in the middle of the village, but the villagers are mostly upper caste or rich people. So they don't want to allow these Halpati children to the schools there, primary schools there. I went as an observer and I have to certify the school, and the principal was so helpless that the upper caste just sit there in front of the school and they don't allow any Halpati child to enter into the school, even in present times, to have basic education. Despite our attempt to have midday meal and so many other schemes for the people. So that is only for one community which are using this kind of work, landless works in the villages. So that is the pitiable situation. But other people are very progressive. In general, the Adivasi children are very educated because they get the primary education in missionary schools in some areas. And when they come to the university departments, they always are having high degrees. But when the only observation I can make, and many of my students after their master degree, they don't want to stay back in the city like we mostly do, migrate and stay. But they usually go back to their native places. When I ask them, why don't you try for jobs in cities? You can easily get. They don't want to separate themselves from their communities. So that is one of the practices still now I find, till now. So that's how they don't actually get the suitable job when they stay back in their villages. Thank you. I think the COVID part I have not observed. I cannot say anything now. Sorry.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Pavitra Kumari. She asked, what is the condition of literacy and education among the community? Isn't there a possibility of having scholars from within the community? I might be speaking from my ignorant perspective, but are there scholars from within the community?
That is answered.
Yes. The literacy level is very high in general. So many tribal students, when they score high marks, they are considered belonging to open categories as per our system. And once our open category seats we fill in, then they go for the other, their category wise reserved categories. So their education level is very high. I think must be more than 60%. And many of them also get government jobs and also private jobs in companies. So there are engineers also, there are professionals also, there are doctors also, there are nurses also. So all professions are having the tribal population of Gujarat. I can't deny that. So there are definitely scholars. Scholars in tribal departments. As you remember, we have Gujarat Vidyapith in Ahmedabad, which is Gandhi, founded by Gandhi. So there also we have a tribal research department. So many scholars join that. Many scholars come to the sociology department to do research on their projects. The Tezgod Institute, I, for example, mentioned you in my presentation. So I just want to see that if you go to this Adivasi Academy initiated by Professor Ganesh Devi, there you will see how the comment has been made regarding the Adivasi Academy. I just quote, which I skipped, I think, earlier. You can imagine. The institute was visualized as a combination of a university, a research center, an activist center, a laboratory for experiments in development, and a cultural expression forum addressing all aspects of Adivasi culture, history, society, rights, and development, unquote. So this you can see how the momentum is taking place. So the scholars or the master degree holders or even the graduates belonging to tribal population, they join this institute for their diploma and degree. As a part of their course, they are documenting their language. So this is how the culture is preserved. The language must be documented, transcribed, and for the future generation, unless it is available, although it is believing in oral literature, but the attempt is made in this way. So definitely there are scholars from within the community, but what happens ironically that many people go for jobs and they have their routine family life, but dedicated scholars are working in different projects for the social upliftment of their own people. There is a percentage there. Thank you.
Okay, I cannot see any more question. Did we miss out any question? Okay, thank you so much, sir. It looks like the other two presenters are not able to make it. So in that case, I think we will come to the closure of the session. Right, Sir Patnaik, sir, do you have anything to say?
No, already I think time and my question is left. It is there. Okay, I'll tell you, Dr. Day, you mentioned, among the tribals, there is a division between upper and lower, but they're normally used to, identifying the place they inhabit. And that is true to all the communities in the country. And perhaps these terms, as different strata of the society, was never in use in any community till today. And so far, my knowledge goes. But if it is in Gujarat, we want to listen more from you.
I just went through an article by Professor Shah, Ghanshyam Shah, the sociologist, and they also, for example, attempted to make the stratification on the basis of their economic activities. So when they made the survey in, for example, different districts of Gujarat near Baroda and Surat, what I could get from that article, they have stratified on the basis of economy. So they said rich and poor and lower, middle, rich and middle and poor. So that is how they have used, and I explained that way that rich is very low, very less, only 2% rich. Means I think he wanted to highlight the aspect that in the political activity, some of the legislative representatives, the MLAs, MPs, and sarpans, they usually belong to the upper class of the tribal people, which are very rich and wealthy people. They have enough land, they have money, they exploit their own people. So that is one which is very less in percentage, very exploitative. So that actually wanted to highlight there, 2% rich. And when they come to the middle class, having the landed property but not sufficient. So they work in their own field and they also work in the neighboring landlord's field. And lower people are these landless laborers, Halpati Samaj, as I told. For example, we use the word nomadic communities and semi-nomadic communities and criminal communities. You can see nowadays if people just don't get any source of income, they go out and they rob the other people's items. So that is criminal, notified criminal communities. So I am afraid if tribal people also can belong to that category, a subsection, but it is completely economic and political stratification.
Yeah, that I exactly wanted to say. That it's actually the outsiders' observations, not the insiders.
Yes, yes, that's true, sir. That's true. I think I have not asked to any tribal or any people, but if I talk to them, then I can have their also comments. I am always making this as an outsider observation. I cannot claim that these are all internal factors. So only the native people or the aboriginal people or the tribal people have to say what they have the right to say about themselves.
What to you, Esther?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for the very interesting and very engaging presentation and discussion. Indeed, we really had a productive time with both the presenters. Thank you so much. So I think we will come to the closure of this session. Just before that, I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody. First of all, I want to thank Professor P.C. Patnaik, our department head, for organizing this interesting, this erudite platform for scholars to come and engage in this manner. And I also especially thank him for giving me this chance of moderating the session. This is itself a very interesting learning experience. And I want to thank Dr. Venkat sir for being the lifeline of all these sessions, with all this technical handling and making this possible. And thank you to both the presenters. So we really had a good time, very enriching, very informative. And most importantly, thank you to all the participants and audience. So every good thing must come to an end. So finally, we are coming to the closure of this series of seminar. So we are left with the last session in the evening. So I hope to see all of you. So I believe that the education, the enrichment, the training that we have got out of this seminar will really benefit us, and it will bear much fruit out of us as scholars and as individuals. So with this, I think we will dismiss, right?
Let us join at 2 o'clock. Yeah.
Right. At 2 o'clock. Yeah, right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.